Do you struggle with self-consciousness or feeling self-conscious about yourself? Do you have fear around being yourself around others, and fear that they won't like you or fear that you will have rejection? Are you afraid to go after your dreams because you fear that your friends will clown you, or your mom and dad might not support you, or your spouse or partner might just make you feel bad about your decisions? If so, then stay tuned for the rest of this video, because I'm going to dive into how to overcome self-consciousness. Hello, 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 Mosaic Souls. Hey Mosaic Souls, I'm Rachael Alexander, artist and Mosaic Soul mentor, aka spiritual teacher with flair. And I'm super excited to talk about this topic because I know that this is something that every person on the planet, almost every person on the planet to some extent, has gone through this at some point in our lives. And even as adults, we might struggle with feeling self-conscious about ourselves. We're all in this kind of illusory realm where we are trying to please each other, or we're trying to make each other happy, or we're in this kind of realm where it's not safe. Like, the energy on the planet, right? The predominant energy on the planet is not necessarily safe. It's shifting dramatically, definitely shifting. But the predominant energy is not completely safe to be who you truly are, to be all of who you truly are. How dare you be who you truly are? You know, it's just that kind of energy. And so because that energy is like very prevalent on the planet, where we have this whole I am not enough syndrome. Check that link out. I'll link to an audio that I did about that. But the I am not enough syndrome that we have predominant on the planet, it can create this sense of self-consciousness. So let's dive in to talk about these 5 simple steps to start to overcome feeling self-conscious about yourself. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, what is self-consciousness, right? And, you know, I asked my soul, I asked my divine team about, you know, giving a definition. It was just this beautiful definition, just very simple, right? It was like, self-consciousness is simply where humans experience fear around being themselves, right? Now, if you think about that, that is so potent, right? As a soul, having this human experience, we came on the planet to be ourselves. If you ask me what I think the purpose of life is, I would say the purpose every human has, and it's going to show up in different ways for everybody because we're all unique, but is to be ourselves. We came here literally to be ourselves. And so because of that, having this epidemic of self-consciousness, of this I am not enoughness, is so interesting to me, because we are so taught and fed that it's not okay to be who you truly are, you know, when that's what we came here to do. So it's like we have this kind of counter culture that says, you know, that goes against our sole purpose, you know what I mean, which is so interesting to me. So the first tip is to ask yourself, what am I avoiding, and what are the emotions that are tied to that, right? So when you think about that question, when self-consciousness comes up, right, when you're feeling self-conscious around doing something or being somebody or doing something in your life, right, what is it that you're avoiding, right? When you feel self-consciousness, when you feel fear around it, what is it that you're avoiding? Because when you're avoiding that, that's usually, fear is a really great teacher, because it tells us where our heart really is lying a lot of times, right? Like where our heart is guiding us, and it'll guide us to something that feels uncomfortable, right? And we'll feel fear around that and feel self-conscious, like, oh no, I can't do that. There's no way. Like, I'm too I don't know enough, or, I'm too old for that, or I'm too young for that. What will people think, And so what are the emotions that are tied to that fear, right? Like, is it, needing of not feeling like you'll be approved of? Is it feeling like you won't be supported? Do you feel like people will make fun of you? Do you feel like you're being a fraud or being an imposter, right? What are the emotions that are tied to that? And what is it that you're avoiding? Right? So what is the thing that you're wanting to move towards that you're avoiding, right? So that is the first thing, is to identify what that is, and then identify the emotions around what it is that you're avoiding. The second tip is then to ask yourself, what are these emotions telling me about the stories that I'm telling myself in my head, right? Because emotions are really usually, especially when they're kind of quote unquote negative emotions or more denser types of emotions, and I'm not saying that they're bad to have, like we came here to have them. I'm just giving tips on how to navigate these emotions, right? What are these emotions telling you about the stories that you're telling yourself in your head, right? So let's say, for example, that you want to go for that extra position, or like apply for the new position that just opened up in your office, right? And then you start to feel self-conscious around it, and then you start to feel fear, and then you identify, okay, I'm feeling scared because I don't want my coworkers to think that I'm better than them, right? And so you're having fear, but it's tied to wanting approval, right? Wanting support, wanting approval outside of yourself, right? And so you identify that those are the emotions. So what are the stories that are attached to those emotions, right? You're like, well, then the mind tends to go here, well, they won't support me, or they'll stop being my friends, or, I won't have anybody to eat with at work, at lunch anymore. I'll be all alone. People will laugh at me behind my back, and then the mind starts to craft these stories, right? So from the first step of identifying what it is that you're avoiding, in this case, it would be going for that higher position at your job. And then the emotions that you identified was the fear, and it was tied to the need for approval. And then the stories that you're telling yourself is, I feel I'll be alone, people will laugh at me behind my back, no one will support me. These are the stories that are tied to that, right? So that is the second tip. The third tip is to ask yourself, now that you've identified all this stuff that's going on within you, right, is, what do I want to create instead, right? What do I want to happen instead, right? What do I want to happen instead? And so this is where I like to add a little bonus tip in there, is to do both and versus the either or. So in our minds, we have a tendency to say, well, if I do this, then I won't be able to do this. So it will be either I can have the higher paying job and no friends, or I can have the lower paying job and have friends, right? We do this either or kind of thing. But when you're doing this step of, what do I want to create instead? Ask yourself, do it in the form of both and, right? So I would love to have the high paying job and the truly supporting friends. That reality exists, right? So as soon as you have that desire, it exists in a vibrational reality, okay? So you know about that. I talk about this. It exists in a vibrational reality. So instead of saying either or, I would like to create this and this, right? That's how powerful you are, because remember, you are divine. So the fourth tip is to focus on your desire and your intent, what you're intending to create, versus the fear around the intent, versus the fear around the desire, right? And so when you're feeling self-conscious about that stuff, and you've identified the emotions, you identified the stories and stuff, instead of identifying with, because remember, thoughts and emotions aren't who you are. You are separate from your thoughts, right? The fact that you can notice that you can have a thought means that you ain't the thought, okay? They just energy passing, just like you energy on the planet. You can play with certain energies, you can engage with certain energies, and you can leave them alone. That's how powerful you are, right? So because of that, you can focus on the fear, right? You can choose to focus on the fear. I ain't gonna tell you what you want to do with your life. It's your life, do what you want to do. But if you want to feel good, then I suggest that you focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. And this is just straight up law of attraction 101, okay? So that is the fourth step. The fifth and final step is to acknowledge the fear, so that you can heal it and start to unravel the fear, right? We already kind of started doing these emotions, right? Started to do this inner work of healing these emotional occurrences so that they don't become blocks within our energy, so that we're like blocking our energy. But start to heal these emotions and unravel them. And then once you've acknowledged the fear and unraveled it so that you can heal it, then go ahead and start to focus on your intent. Focus on what you do want, right? So that is the 5 simple steps right there. I'm going to recap it for you. You ready? Let's go. First step is, what are you avoiding and what are the emotions tied to it? Second tip, what are the emotions telling you about the stories that you're telling yourself in your head? Third tip, what do you want to create instead? Fourth tip, focus on your desire and your intent instead of the fear. And the 5th tip is to acknowledge the fear and unravel it in order to heal it, and then focus on your desire and intent once you've healed the fear. So I hope that this has been super helpful. I'm super excited, and this fills me with so much joy to share this with you, because it's just what I love to do, to help elevate the planet, elevate the consciousness on the planet. That is a part of my soul purpose and part of my highest excitement. So remember, you are divine, and to flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because you are a divine, infinite being, a Mosaic soul having this human experience, and your soul knows exactly what you came to journey through on this planet. So always follow your intuition regarding any information that I share within on this channel. And if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and share it with a friend if you found it helpful. And I look forward to seeing you later. Always remember to vibrate higher. Peace, love, and light. Want to take back control over your mind and finally gain power over that negative voice inside your head so that you can create a more positive and fulfilling life? Then grab my free 1-day negative mind detox mini guide today.